Today we have Tom with us. I feel like I don't really need to introduce Tom because everywhere I go with Tom, somebody's like, oh, I recognize you. We stayed together in Morocco. We're like, oh, didn't we used to work together? Like everybody knows Tom already. And so I don't really need to introduce him. We have a habit of stalking our visitors from abroad, and we discovered a really cool project that Tom had been working on, or that Tom has done. And so Steffi managed to convince him to talk about it today. Thanks so much.
Right. Oh. Yeah, thanks for having me, and sorry for the delay and thank you for the technical support. So today I'm going to be telling you about an organization that I founded back in 2018 to help with the homelessness crisis that we're facing in Dublin and that we see across the world and in many different cities as well. So the organization is called Secret Street Tours. We're a non-profit social enterprise, and we train homeless people to be walking tour guides of Dublin, empowering them with skills and confidence that they can share their stories. And as I go through this, I thought it'd be great if we can actually start by, before I give you a bit of history about the organization and how we got started, but actually hearing from one of the guides themselves. And since we're not in Dublin, I thought we'd just share a little video with you. So hopefully, just let me know if you can hear this okay.
And another reason you used to sleep in here, you get a better sleep in this park than you would in some of these nighttime only hostels. You're talking 16, 17 euro mats all in the one room, and it's just total chaos.
My name's Tom. I'm the founder of Secret Street Tours. Secret Street Tours is a non-profit social enterprise that trains people affected by homelessness and to be walking tour guides of their neighbourhoods, empowering them with the skills and the confidence that they can share their stories.
Well folks, you're all very welcome here today. My name is Shane and I'll be your tour guide today. I'll tell a bit of my own story. I also incorporate what life is like in the homeless hostels, wandering the streets every day for 7 years. It's horrific. It's a big impact on your mental and physical health as well. And that's another major factor on the streets these days. So we make no mistakes here. It's very, very simple how I became homeless. My lease was coming to an end. My landlord told me that his niece wanted to come up to Dublin to do a college course, and I had to find somewhere else to live. And I couldn't find anywhere else to live. So I had to put the contents of the house into storage, and I registered in there as homeless that day. So that night they drove me to a place called Bricken's Barrack. It was a 30-man dorm, nighttime only hostel. Now to be honest with you, I didn't sleep a wink. I slept with one eye open. A lot of noise. I think everyone should have the right to a roof over their head. And a lot of these nighttime only hostels are not safe. There's a lot of bullying going on in them. There's a lot of people who won't go into them. And that's the reason why they are out in the streets, because they're afraid to go into these places. I would sleep in here on and off. The days that I bring this free phone number and I wouldn't get a bed. So I jumped the wall up here and about the third tree and I pitch a tent there. You get a better sleep in this park than you would in some of these nighttime only hostels. And it's just, you're put out again at 7:30 in the morning, and it could be weather like this, and you're walking around the streets all day. Your feet are get wet today, your feet are going to be wet again the following morning. You know? So that's the reality of it, folks. So I'm going to take you down along here now, and I'm going to show you one or two of these homeless hostels. This is called Oak House, and it's run by Dublin Simon. Now this is a 36-bed capacity for gentlemen only, ranging from their 20s right up till their 80s. They'd have serious mental and physical health problems in this hostel. But the reality is, I would call this hostel the last stop. This is kind of it for a lot of them, and that's the reality of it, you know. Like a day like today, you know. Plenty of people stuck in tents all day, you know. We can go home and have a shower and a cup of tea and warm up, you know. They're out for the night, and people it doesn't affect them, they don't bother with it, you know. We had 100,000 up marching for the water protests, we had 10,000 up for the homeless, you know. So that's the reality of it.
Yeah, I think it's really important for the guides because it really gives them a voice. You know, we hear about homelessness every day, but you never really hear from the people affected by homelessness. This is really about empowering them, giving them a voice. This is a group of people that are ignored daily, and you know, it's allowing them to tell their story and reconnect back in with society. And I think from the other perspective, it's really hard to engage with homelessness. So it's about opening that dialogue and really giving you an insight into a world that you really might know nothing about, but it's really close to you.
Well, talking to different people everywhere for a start, yeah, it's good for me confidence, and connecting with people as well. You're having a bit of that, yeah. You know what I mean? It's not all doing. Give me something to focus on, and it's another step forward. So once I keep my head above water, I've been meeting different people all the time. Something we come up with. I passed the patch in there, and I know a lot of the lads in there, and I think it's them a bit of hope as well. They can't get out of the situation. Ready to rock, yeah? Always ready. He was born ready.
Oh wow! And if you want to go to a Selena hostel. Yeah, so that was one of our guides, Shane, doing a video for one of the local news channels in Ireland. And that's kind of fast forward way up here somewhere, so maybe I might rewind and take you through the journey of how we set this up. And I'm happy to take questions as I go through or at the end, really flexible, so whatever works. If you want to know something, just jump in. But I first got inspired by the idea of a walking tour delivered by homeless people in Vienna, because there's a similar organization there. And when I went on the tour, I ended up sticking around and speaking with our guide for a good half an hour after the tour. And he had a fascinating story. He was someone who was previously a doctor, had taken out a big loan to start his own practice, got sick, defaulted on the loan, family relationships fell apart, his mortgage went into arrears, and things really snowballed. And he was in a new country and didn't have a support system around him. And it really struck me that, everyone's susceptible to homelessness. So without that support network around you, and this is someone who had then spent a long time on the streets, and he was telling me that these tours gave him a way back to reconnect with people. Like, he'd go months without having any meaningful interactions with anyone, and this was really his channel to re-engage, to get his confidence back. So I thought that was really powerful, and it had a big impact on me, and it had a huge impact on this individual. And growing up in Dublin, particularly going in the city centre to university, we see homelessness all the time. And it becomes really normalised, and I think it was really increasing in Dublin. Like, I think my first year in university there, you would be shocked if you saw like some tents by the canal, and it would turn your head. Second, third year, you wouldn't look twice, because that's now normal. And it's not a normal thing to be homeless and for it to be so visible in our societies. So I thought if we could have that impact for just one person in Dublin, we should give it a go. So I then started volunteering with Dublin Simon, who's one of our homeless charities in Dublin, and essentially pitching the idea a lot to many homeless people until someone said yes, which took a while, because it's maybe a bit of a crazy concept for them, because they have to be willing to really speak about really personal issues and really take a lot of ownership of that narrative and of their personal story. But we found someone who wanted to do it, so we started our training program. We linked in with a lot of sort of pro bono resources that I'd been working with in my sort of corporate job at the time. So a lot of kind of organizations that help people with presentation skills and building your confidence. We also partnered with people who had already built their own tours. So we got a lot of mentorship for our guides, but ultimately this was their narrative, it was their story, and we were helping them tell it. So we're trying to give them skills and a confidence and a platform to do it. If we fast forward quite a lot, we're training our fourth guide at the moment. We managed to survive COVID, which was a really big challenge for us, because we'd had this really big year and everything was on a great growth trajectory, and then nothing, everything's locked down. And I think one of the most frustrating and challenging experiences of my life was trying to teach our guides, who are not super tech literate, how to do a virtual tour with an iPad that we delivered to them via a WhatsApp video call. And that was, wow. I don't know how we did it, but we did it. And we did virtual tours for a year. So yeah, we've now training our fourth guide, and we've welcomed over 6,000 guests, and we get tremendous feedback. So the main people that come on our tours are corporate groups, schools, people visiting Dublin, and locals of Dublin. We get a lot of locals who want to sort of see this other aspect to Dublin. So I touched on our vision sort of in the video and as I've been speaking now, but really is about just giving a voice to a group that we hear so much about, but we hear about them as statistics. We don't hear about stories, and there is a story behind every statistic, and that's really what we try and promote. And we try and promote this dialogue as well with homelessness, because people coming on our tours, they often never have meaningful interactions with anyone who's homeless, and particularly school students, and we try and break that cycle early on. We have a lot of students, and we ask them, have you ever spoken to a homeless person? And a lot of time it's no, and that can really carry with you throughout your life. You can really become distanced and dehumanized from people who have been just misfortunate, and again, we might not necessarily be so far away from this ourselves. You're 2, 3, 4 paychecks away. If your support network's not there, this can happen to us. This is just some background on some of the statistics in Ireland. We see this, as a trend all around the world, but it's It's very pressing in Ireland because it sort of links in with a housing crisis that we face, with some pretty poor policies that our government is employing in terms of leaving the market to fix everything when it comes to housing and not building any social housing. And all the constructions you see in Dublin now are pretty much offices or hotels because they're the most profitable things to build in Dublin. But this is really increasingly affecting younger people as well. So you see more and more young people staying at home as a general rule, but more and more people are homeless as well. And we have a lot of hidden homelessness in Dublin as well. It's not just what you see on the streets. It's people in unsuitable accommodation, in refuges, and in hotels. Like we have whole families, so many families living in hotels in Ireland, which is really not a suitable place to raise anyone. There's no kitchen, there's a whole family in one room, and it's, so yeah, for such an affluent country, this is crazy. We should be able to fix this problem. So I talked a little bit about our solution and doing our little part to try and give a platform to people who are homeless and also let people engage with this issue. So some of our impact, we asked people, do they feel more aware and engaged on the issue of homelessness, and have we changed their perceptions? On top of that, we just try and focus on delivering an excellent product. So we need people to keep coming on the tours, so we really just focus on that area and our guides are incredible storytellers, like masterful, much better than I, so they would have you captivated if they were up here. But the transformation that we see in them is miraculous. Like we start off, the recruitment process is often like a coffee, one-on-one, and they would really struggle to keep eye contact, to stop fidgeting, and they go from this level, from having the confidence really just taken away from you, people ignoring you, you not having a voice, to them being able to speak in front of a room of 300 or 400 people, and really touch them with your story and be really inspirational. So I'm very proud of our guides and their journey that they're come on and that they continue to go on. So they're now in education, our guides are in their own accommodation, and they still face challenges. I mean, one of the big challenges interlinked here is addiction. So addiction and homelessness it's really common that these are intertwined for many reasons. But yeah, so this is a challenge that we have to face as an organization as well, and that can be pretty heartbreaking as well if our guides relapse. But ultimately we have to just keep focusing on helping as many people come through this program as we can, and helping changing people's perceptions around homelessness. So yeah, I can briefly tell you about a program that we're planning to run this year. So a DESH school in Ireland is a school in an underprivileged area where typically the children are disproportionately affected by homelessness and issues around homelessness. So one of the programs that we're looking to get funding for this year is to essentially give out our tours free to DESH schools and get someone to sponsor it. And yeah, it's been really powerful. I mean, we've had kids who come on the tour who have family that are homeless or stay in unsuitable accommodation, in hotels, in refuges, and it's really powerful for them to be heard by their classmates and their classmates to understand their stories. So this is a key focus for us for the next year, and something we're looking forward to doing. I'm probably going to leave it there and just open it up for questions. I hope I didn't rush through things too much, but yeah, thank you very much. No, 100%. So firstly, in terms of who the people are, these are people who are trying to exit homelessness, which is really difficult. So they're normally they've got some sort of stability, but it's not permanent. So typically we start working with people in 4 to 6 month accommodation. So they're not having like a nighttime only hostel. So they've got this stability to build from, which if you don't have this, we can't work together and build from there. So they have to get to that point. And there are a lot of really good organizations helping people get to that point. So we work with them. After that, in terms of the tour content itself, it's a mix. We have about 50-50 on interesting places in Dublin and folklore and history, and the history of the guide itself. And often these things are intertwined. Like we might have this beautiful park that has a history of like a revolution in Dublin, but our guide tells us about how he used to pitch a tent in that very park. So he's having his own, revolution in there and his own personal journey. So beautiful tours of places, beautiful buildings, but we can have this old building that can also be a homeless hostel, and it's so we have these really big contrasts in the tour, but it's important that our guides can talk about their story, take ownership of that story, and it's, I think, really inspiring because they're on this trajectory to becoming more independent, more educated, and they're taking action and helping other people and inspiring not just us, but other people who are homeless. So they see their friends who are still on the streets as they go through the tours. No, this is not my main work. Everyone at Secret Street Tours is a volunteer, including myself, apart from our guides. So we try to maximize the amount of revenue that goes back to our guides and help them save for things that are really difficult to save for when you're in this like short-term mentality of survival. So this can be rental deposits for a first apartment. This could be, education course. This could be something like even, getting teeth repaired. Expensive things that are, when you're in this survival mode, you never get to plan for. So we try and help them plan for the future in that way. But my main hustle is I work for UNICEF as like a tech consultant. So that's what I mainly do. Yeah, that definitely has happened. And the first recruit hire was by far the hardest. Because we really need to get someone who is willing to pioneer this. It's sort of uncharted waters. And we have a really kind of touching story about how Shane, who you saw in the video, how he came to us. He saw it in the paper because we had our first guide was delivering a tour, and he's I know this guy. What's he doing in the paper? And he started reading through, and he's like, and he just thought to himself, I could do that. And he was at the place in his recovery and journey that he had some stability, and he reached out. And again, he was someone who was really low on confidence, like having that one-on-one. It's hard to imagine how he'd get to this stage, but he has. He put in a lot of work, and it's been a massive transformation. But yeah, we get a lot more people interested in coming to us rather than me, pitching to everyone who'll listen. All of the guides we've trained have got into their own accommodation, apart from not the guide we're training at the moment. That remains to be seen, but everyone who's delivered their own tours for us, which has been 3 guides so far, have all gone into their own permanent independent living. Unfortunately, one of our guides had a relapse, but this is a reality of homelessness, and it's really difficult to get out of homelessness and get into that independent living. So we're trying to help them on that ladder. Not yet, but that's something we definitely encourage them to do. I think one of the reasons they haven't yet is because they're in education. Our guide Shane left school really early. I think dyslexia wasn't a thing that was diagnosed when he was growing up, and he was just told he was stupid. And I think that he left school when he was like 13 or 12. So he's going back and building back those foundations and those confidence now, and that will take time. And along that way, I think this is a great way, first and foremost, to provide an income. I think our guides, for a part-time role, are really well paid, and they deserve to be. They deliver an excellent product. And we support them on that journey. So I think my big task is to get more demand for the tours, so then we could build and train more guides and get programs like the Desh School program up and running. Yeah, it's proven and it works in many European countries. I've seen. I haven't yet seen it. I haven't attended one outside of Europe, but I know there's one in Germany, Austria, the UK, Ireland, I'm sure Spain. I'm sure I'm missing some as well, but there's quite a few. Their business models do vary, but the core concept, I think, is something that is definitely can be franchised or can just be replicated in other cities and countries around the world. Oh, we've actually only ever received one significant donation, and everything else has been, and that was even like a couple years in. So on that sort of timeline, I skipped over it, but I think we only put in €800 at the start as like a donation between me and my co-founder, and we'd already been self-sustainable after like 3 or 4 months in terms of the number of tours that were coming in, because our costs are super low. So I think one thing that we're not factoring is we rely on volunteers, which are really important, having dedicated volunteers who do things like administration, tour bookings, organization. But a lot of it is quite synchronized, like, booking comes into the website, goes onto an app that the guides have, they know when their tours are, so it makes it a bit easier. If someone's late, they can see their number, they can just give them a ring. So our main costs are things like insurance, accountancy, but you can count our big outgoings on like one hand. It's pretty small. So, and then the model is you pay to come on the tour. Groups might pay a bit more, schools might pay a bit less, but group bookings are pretty good for us. So yeah, sustainable.
Thanks so much, Tom. This is super inspiring.
Thank you.
Well done.
Cheers.